Now you can see actually that some of these scenarios don't fit exactly regionally, geographically, but generally speaking, they really do. Finally, there's South and Southeast Asia, complex epidemic picture where men who have sex with men, the heterosexual epidemic, including commercial sex, and injection drug use transmission all contribute to the HIV epidemics. HIV prevalence in Thailand, which is the country we're going to focus on, about 1.6% of reproductive age adults, so quite a severe generalized epidemic, but substantially higher prevalence again in MSM. And that's the region we're talking about. Okay, so responding to these epidemics, and the idea here is that we've tried to look at what responses ought to do fit to these 4 different epidemic scenarios. We have looked at the available interventions that are out there and used a modified grade approach to looking at that. Steph Baral from our group is actually going to be presenting this grading of the prevention packages in much more detail at an MSM session on Thursday, for those of you who are going to the main meetings. I won't go into it in detail here. But basically, what we're going to be modeling is a combination package that includes really some simple elements. The first is outreach with condom and lubricant, promotion and distribution. Other work that we've done in Africa and some other settings has suggested that, believe it or not, in 2010, water-based or silicon-based lubricant is still a tremendous need in many countries. And of course, many of you are involved in organizations that do this kind of outreach, condom promotion, and distribution. The second is community-level behavioral interventions. There's been this recent Cochrane review of behavioral interventions for MSM, and it showed quite clearly that community-level interventions are more efficacious than individual-level ones, so that's what we've put into the model. And then thirdly, of course, is antiretroviral therapy. So critical part of this is access to ARVs for HIV-positive. MSM adapted models publicly available, so for those of you who are interested in sort of taking this work forward or looking at your own country, if we haven't modeled it here, this is going to be made available to the community. We really appreciate Futures for doing that. We have reworked the goals model by doing a couple of important changes. One is, as I said, adding these preventive interventions for MSM, but also expanding the risk categorization. So the way goals typically has worked is that MSM is a yes-no category, and all MSM are put into the same risk group. But of course, if you look at heterosexual risks, there's low, medium, and high. High-risk heterosexuals generally are sex workers. So we've done the same thing. We've tried to break this down into low, medium, and high-risk MSM. The high-risk are sex workers. So male sex workers are very much in this model. And then we've added an additional category for MSM IDU to be able to model those interactions. We've done this for 4 countries: Peru, Ukraine, Kenya, and Thailand. And basically, we've done it with 3 scenarios. So the worst case scenario is where MSM interventions basically stop, so something like a shutdown, which unfortunately we've seen in a couple of countries. Senegal would be a good example after the arrests there. And ARVs for the general population also start decline in 2007. So this really is the worst case scenario. There wouldn't be preventive interventions for MSM, and ARV access would decline. We then look at the current scenario, so where are we with the best available data for these countries on coverage for MSM and ARV access, and we just assume that that continues, so it doesn't get much better. So all of our efforts continue at that level. And then we have a best case scenario. What happens if by 2015 we get full coverage of MSM? So wouldn't we all like to live in that world? And we have enough ARVs to cover, by 2015, all the HIV-positive MSM in a given country. So that's the best case scenario. And then we're modeling for the MSM IDU epidemics, 60% coverage in injection drug users. Remember that even with 100% access, not all people using drugs want to get on substitution therapy or to get off. So here is the first result from this modeling work. This is the data from Peru, and let me just walk you through this.